suppose in the startup phase, like with Grafton, we had really good momentum, we had brand recognition. So, you know, when we first started, it was a couple $100, then it's thousands, then it's tens of thousands. Then you go back and you go, right, I'm starting again, and the software's going to be like $10 a month, $20 a month, $50 a month.
The adrenaline is so different because your wins are more, okay, we got a messaging feature, or okay, we got this.
Yeah.
So you're not growing necessarily your business, you're growing your product.
We had started initially with an email plugin tool to try and build MVP. Then Gemini and Copilot launched, so we said, okay, our email plugin.
We won't take them on now. We'll leave them a little bit of mercy.
Yeah. I was like, I'll leave Google and Microsoft alone.
Good evening.
Welcome back to episode 2 of Built from Scratch
with yours truly, Daragh and Erik.
How are you, Erik, on this 8:30 on a Monday evening?
You know what? I feel like it's Friday, but we keep going. This is what happens when you're doing the double shift.
Yeah, absolutely. So hopefully listen to episode 1. We got a bit of an intro into who Erik and I am. So the format that's going to be that we're going to bring up some learnings from the last week or couple of weeks and some ideas that are on our mind and run through it. So Erik, which one do you want to kick off with? Do you want to kick off with my point or your point first?
Well, before we get started, I'd like the audience to know why you're a bit sweaty today. What did you get up to this afternoon?
This evening, I just did a CrossFit session. It was, I think it's called Chad, and it was 1,000 box step-ups with a 20-kilo vest. And it took me 72 minutes and 20 seconds. So, I'm a little sweaty, so apologies for that. Hopefully you're listening on audio only.
I don't know what kept you going to get up on that box so many times.
The ups and downs of business.
Maybe a topic we delve into shortly.
Yeah. But okay, so let's get stuck into it anyways, keep everyone on track. So I suppose the first topic I wanted to bring up was about the whole idea. So I suppose with Magnate, we're building a software to centralize communication and convert messages directly into tasks. So this is my first venture into a software product business exclusively. With Grafton, when I was involved with Grafton, we'd build lots of product for companies, but we would never obviously be the actual ones going through that journey. We'd be the one facilitating it. So I suppose with Magnate recently, we've gone from starting our MVP trials. So when you start a software tech product, you go from, it's all in your head, it's this idea, you've done your market research, you're selling the dream, then you go, right, I need to go build it.
And you've this ultimate eagerness to get to market as soon as possible.
Totally, but like software doesn't happen overnight.
No.
So recently we've gone from starting our trials. So it's now gone from in my head and Aaron's head, my co-founder, to in people's hands, and people start ideating and picking holes and start learning. So I think it's a really interesting transition, and I've actually learned a lot throughout it because it's been super exciting, kind of almost like handing your baby out into the world and going, go explore and go figure it out and let everyone else interpret it. So I suppose I just wanted to kind of start on that topic of like, it's really interesting. Like I suppose my learning, I suppose, out of this is that I wish I got there sooner. I really wish we kind of had shipped sooner. Now again with Magnate, because of all the APIs to third-party products. So currently we're integrated with Gmail, Outlook, Google Calendar and Slack. So a lot of data being centralized, and having that as a functional product is obviously been a lot of development work.
But in respective, you've been like sprinting for like the last 3-4 months on this, you know, since ideation and since you've exited Grafton, you've just kind of delved straight into it and you said, let me just pull up my shirt sleeves and let's get my hand dirty. Yeah. And you went from talking to, you know, some of our clients to talking to a lot of different people of like, do you think this is a pain point? Like, how did you find that process of, let me start with nothing except a name and an idea, and how did you get to the feature list or the shipping list you needed to get to? Yeah,
so I suppose like the pain point I kept seeing was that, and again, you suffered this pain point as well, as that people, like all these softwares are coming out in the messaging space, and it's all just new dashboard. So you've got your, typically people in the agency space have got your at least one email address, typically more. You've got your internal communication Slack, you've got your WhatsApp, your iMessage, your SMS, and then that maybe Telegram as well. So that's 6 different places you're getting messaging.
Every hour, every day, I know it. Right?
And again, for context, Erik's a super user. So I suppose what I wanted to do is create a dashboard, because I think over the next 10 years, a lot of the conversation is going to be around deep work, focused work, because AI is going to come in, and I think it's going to remove a lot of administrative work, a lot of repetitive work, and we will be doing that with Magnate. So I wanted the idea of, okay, when these project managers, these team leads, these agency owners are doing communication, which is super important to run your organization, because it's either internal communications or external communications, and everything keeps things running. and you're not necessarily involved in all your communications, having a good overview and being able to pull tasks out of things fast is really important, because it's all billable hours, it's all getting things done as quickly as possible.
Time is money.
All of it, between your opportunity cost and then your actual billable hours.
Right.
So boiling that down to what are the pain points, and then how can you come up with a creative solution to go figure it out. We had started initially with an email plugin tool to try and build MVP. Then Gemini and Copilot launched, so we said, okay, our email plugin.
We won't take them on now. We'll leave them a little bit of mercy.
Yeah. I was like, I'll leave Google and Microsoft alone. So then we said, okay, well, the plan always was to build a full mobile app and desktop app. So we said, okay, well, I guess you need to accelerate that plan, so to jump headfirst into it. So again, we've started with centralization. We're now currently building our kind of task to-do list. You can mark messages as done. And then on your dashboard, then you're going to have your to-do list and your messages, and the AI is going to pull any request for a meeting, any like that, and enable that you can instantaneously create a calendar event or a task instantaneously. So you've got your to-do list on your dashboard, and you've got your messages, and the AI is pulling all that data out.
So focuses you in and narrows down what you've got to do and what's on, and you get to manage multiple inboxes. That's the key.
All from one place.
And multiple inboxes, but also multiple messaging mediums like WhatsApp and so on and so forth. Telegram probably in the future, and all these platforms delving into one
place.
And you're not going missing messages and information, or where like your team is sprinting and they're constantly communicating. You could be out on meetings selling, or
selling clients,
you're missing out. And like, even though some of these products have great catch-ups, you're still having to go from product to product to see it all. And the likes of Microsoft Teams, you had a conversation with a future customer, and they mentioned, like, I'm switching from all these teams. There's no catch-up feature in Teams. I'm not trying to inspire Microsoft to create a catch-up feature, but it's all over the shop. So like, these leaders, C-level executives or operational partners really need their messaging centralized and tasks created, calendar automations, everything like that. Like, I know myself from being in multiple roles and multiple different businesses. I have so many emails, so many inboxes, and so many demands, and I miss something all the time.
Totally. And like, what I hear over and over again with these leaders and with these operations people is that it's typically your evenings are taken away. Like, one in particular, the one you referenced there, every evening from 4 to 7 p.m, it's just catch up and messaging.
This the catch up. I'm doing admin.
Yeah. And again, I want to just obliterate that into like a 10-15 minute job, that all the tasks you need to do are pulled out. You're able to ask the AI on all your messaging what's going on, and then for your prep for your meeting the next day, you can go, hey Magnate, prepare with all the meetings I have tomorrow, prepare a summary of what's going on in all of those, so you can get a catch up quickly. And that should reduce those 2-3 hours, preferably down to like 15 minutes, what we're aiming for. So, and allow you to run your organization, because typically a lot of the times the owners are still doing a lot of the sales. It's a lot of founder-led sales, because you just understand the game really well. And obviously where you're at is that your operations are largely run by the team that have been there for years, and they understand the game really well. So anyways, that's my transition currently. It's been really exciting. It's picked some, the other piece as well, it gives not only just picking holes, it actually gives new ideas and new perspectives on like what features could be there, getting people to do surveys and find out, rank like what features they want next, maybe pick holes in blatant features that should be in it. And again, so we're on that journey, working full time in it. And again, I suppose my learning, and if I was to do this again, I would try and get there as fast as possible. As fast as possible. Speed. Yeah. So that's my big learning out of that point. So that's my point one for this.
That's the question I actually get asked all the time is, what was the hardest part of like the whole process so far? So obviously you've got your MVP up and going, and you're constantly evolving your features, but what has been the hardest part for the last couple of months?
I think it's just showing up every day and keep going. Because like, I suppose in the startup phase, like, we're graphing with really good momentum, with brand recognition, we're able to sign deals that were like bigger and bigger. You start, when we first started, it was a couple $100,000, and it's thousands, and it's tens of thousands, and it
just keeps growing.
And I suppose I was in the headspace of landing those deals. Then you go back and you go, right, I'm starting again, and the software's going to be like $10 a month, $20 a month, $50 a month.
The adrenaline is so different, because your wins are more, okay, we got a messaging feature, or okay, we got this. So you're not growing necessarily your business, you're growing your product.
Totally.
And that's the transition.
So I think it's just readjusting to the new speed, which is obviously a lot slower, and then the ability to just be able to stay singularly focused, because I suppose I spent 4 or 5 months full time just trying to justify market research, speaking to people, and figure out the idea, because it's had a few evolutions. As you know, it's had a few evolutions in the last few months.
My favorite thing, what you said, the way you described it, is like getting an empty glass jar and just having air in it, and you're going around to people and asking, what do you think if I put this in the glass? Or, you know, and you're going around to investors and you're selling like thin air basically, and it's worth millions of dollars in the future and everything like this. And you've got to justify that while building a product, while building a brand, while staying calm in all this, you know, and focused in that this is,
Like, I can so understand why people pack it in, because like it really, because the amount of doors, especially at the start, you shut in your face of like, bad idea, or I don't get it, or people just saying, yeah, nice idea, you know, and like there's no follow through in that. So I suppose, I think it's just, and again, I have the upside of having a previous business experience that a lot of people don't have. So like, I suppose from a management team perspective, like Aaron, my co-founder, masters in AI, machine learning engineer, worked on generative AI products. Myself, obviously we have our chairman, Gareth Flower, and then I suppose our team side, we have like people with masters in AI, like I suppose from a team perspective, really strong pain point and understand the pain point. I scaled an agency with yourself. I understand the space. And I suppose it's been interesting that getting into the space, the big one for us has always been, right, we want to see trials. We want to see people move away from their current products on here. So I think it's just been a case of just being able just to stay singularly focused, really refine an idea, because it's really interesting that like the decision I made 4 months ago is now come to fruition now. So the distance between making the call and then seeing it come to life is a really, really long distance. So I suppose it's still having faith in the decision you made months ago, and trusting in that, and trusting in the process to get there. Now, again, the product we're building is general to a certain degree of like we're connecting lots of products, bringing it together from a messaging standpoint. So like there's lots of industries we could pick, but I suppose I know digital agency very well. I know lots of people in the space. It makes sense to start there, and let's see what way the world takes Magnate and where it goes. And I'm really excited for that. But I suppose now that we have the product and we have momentum going and people can see it and interact with it, that's exciting. But definitely the hardest part is all those days, like I just kept showing up to the office, kept showing up every day, regardless of how much I had to do or not do. I just kept showing up, and definitely just keeping your head straight of like, okay, this is this one focus. I trust in my decision. I trust in my research. Just keep going. So yeah, that's probably the hardest part.
No, I hear you. And like you mentioned a point there, just highlighting your co-founders and teams. And one of the points you wanted to mention today is the importance of having a co-founder and just going through that. And obviously we co-founded Grafton, and we had Jack at the start as well, adding the whole content and graphic and all the media aspect to our business. Like, what would you say 4 months in about having a co-founder, and that change from finding a new co-founder as well and going through the process? Because it's all about having the relationship. Like, you know, like you went to school with Aaron, I went to school with Aaron as well. So the paths keep crossing here. It's pretty interesting.
Yeah, like we've been friends for 15 years, so I know the guy very, very well. I suppose like I think a co-founder is essential. Like I was talking to a group of entrepreneurship students from the University of Galway a couple of weeks ago at a talk I was doing, and the question came up. I really believe from a personal satisfaction standpoint, and you can talk about like life post having a co-founder, obviously me stepping away from Grafton and whatever, and life pre that. But I suppose from my perspective anyways, I definitely wouldn't get into business without having a co-founder, because I suppose from my perspective, there's only so much you can tell the team. Whether it's good news or bad news, the team will only be so excited or so down, and there's only so much you can share. And I suppose just going on that journey can be, and again, it's talked about over and over again, as the loneliness, the lonely chapter or whatever. But definitely having someone that you're kind of going on that journey with, that understands the ups and downs, you can reminisce with over a beer a couple months later, or, you know, laugh in the moment or cry in the moment. Yeah. But I definitely think that that's essential, and I definitely don't think it's talked about enough. And from a perspective of business number 3, you know, obviously Grafton, we have Sky Park together, and then Magnate. Again, sorry, I think anyone out there, I think finding someone with complementary skill sets is willing to go on the journey with you is really, really important. And I think you'd agree with me in saying that. I suppose you can speak a little bit about, you know, life pre-Daragh, PD, or after Daragh.
It's like a divorce, right? I think, but like we had a positive divorce, you know, and you know, we didn't fall out or anything like that. If you know anything, it probably brought us closer together.
I think so, yeah.
You know, and actually accelerated our relationship on another, you know, level. But I think that I think that you have to look at this as it's there's a time for everything and there's a time for everyone, and like we built each other for so much so far, and then we were like, okay, let's do this, and you want to do that.
Divide and conquer.
So like after the whole buyout, you know, we've kept going for swims every Saturday and kept hanging out, kept talking, because you know, I've gone on a lonelier journey. You've gone a lonelier journey now that we don't have each other, and obviously you've Aaron. You know, and I'm lucky Gareth is my chairman as well, and you know we talk, and he's a great coach and mentor. But like on a day to day, like when you have nobody to share like some information. Obviously, like I still bounce a lot of things off you, and I pick up the phone in a random hour and say, Daragh, what do you think? Or Daragh, what if you know? So it's like we still have that, but I think. You know, I do miss having somebody to bounce things off and to grow and to trust to run that part of your business, because I think like it's a baby, right? It's like a child, and like we're supposed to be the parents, and it's like, is it, you know, mom's way, is it dad's way, is which way are you going to be, you know, kind of giving the child a bit of, I suppose, guidance on it. But I think like now you've had a brand new co-founder come in, Aaron, and still like he was a friend, but still now it's different because you've got to go through good times and tough times and squeaky bum times now together over just the last 4 months and also the next decade or so, you know. So I think every relationship is probably measured in a decade of like how much, you know, we're actually going to do together.
I suppose we did 6 years together, and I suppose we still have Sky Park as a collaboration project we still both work on. But I think when you're starting a new venture, and again, I suppose I don't know how much you can talk about on the Olive side, but I think that like we're playing to really play the game. I think one thing we've really learned is you need to be thinking about a decade ahead.
It's all a decade ahead.
And I think where you hear me earlier talk about like what does workflow look like over the next 10 years, and I'm building a product that hopefully. And again, will evolve and change, but I'm thinking about, okay, what trends are going to come down over the line? What way are things trending? Okay, how can you intercept and build something where you're playing into the markets instead of against the markets? So I think you're obviously thinking the same with everything you're doing from a strategy perspective. Again, it was interesting because when we were 17, 18, sure, we didn't even know 2 years. We didn't
know what was going to happen, you know.
And again, we're still, it's a guess based on, you know, projections and whatever, and we're still figuring that out. But I think it's a real play of like, okay, when we start Magnate, it's like, okay, I'm aiming to play a 10-year game here, and see how that grows and evolves. I actually think this plays nicely into your second point here about the ups and downs of business. I think it actually feeds very nicely in.
Very much.
Do you want to lay up kind of what that point and kind of why you want to bring it up?
I think a lot of people only see the ups of running a business, and like obviously, like actually Aaron was here this evening and we're just having that chat. And, you know, he was like, I now see the other side, Erik. And I was like, yeah, the other side, when everyone's gone home, you're still there and you're still working or you're still thinking, you know, you constantly got to be in this whole thinking phase. And, you know, like we have sleepless nights, you have stressful evenings, you know, like especially I think at the start of your business, you know, like when you're bootstrapping or when you're having to fundraise and you're having to answer to investors, like everyone thinks it's so easy, and like everyone sees a company has just fundraised 2 million euros or a company has just announced hiring plans for jobs, and there's so much behind it. And I think founders especially tend not to talk about the difficult moments of starting your own business. And like we've had great ups but great downs, and probably greater downs than ups many a times, when you're like having to battle facing your taxes at the first time and facing that actually like this is, you know, not rainbows and unicorns of, you know, running around the world, and like there's a bit of that, we had some fun as well. We had a lot of fun, you know, and like we've traveled a lot and we've really enjoyed it, and I wouldn't change anything because I think it's, you know, really added to who we are today. But like there's just a whole stress element to it. You really need a character to absorb the stress that you're constantly going to be exposed to, and you got to create these coping mechanisms for yourself. You know, some people play games of just checking. I was talking to somebody and I was like asking them, like, how do you get through, you know, like tough weeks and tough months? And he's like, I just count down from 32, and every day I just draw a line like in a jail cell. Because he's like, sometimes you got to go into the pain cave and gain that pain and, you know, make it a gain, and just go through that whole process. Because like, you'll see even the bigger companies, especially now, like, you know, I think the economy is going through a bit of a change with both AI, with both a lot of, you know, global politics that are happening everywhere, and wars and elections and everything like that. The economy is feeling it, and we've got businesses, you know, closing down. We've got businesses automating. We've got a lot of things happening, and that adds another level of stress to it, because people are closing their doors, etc. And nobody's really talking about that at the moment. So I just wanted to touch in on this whole ups and downs things, because especially the last few months of like losing my co-founder and having to, I suppose, self-sustain and create systems and just try to cope with it. And you know, like my methodology is I've assigned more ownership to senior staff, and I've actually pulled myself a little bit back from the business to try to act as more of a, I'm more in the commercial side, more in the growth side of the business, but operationally I try to step back, and I'm like, trying to hire great people is the aim, and give them everything they need to succeed, and we'll touch on that today. But I think that was my coping mechanism, but also like, you need people in your circle, your inner circle, to bounce things off. And like, if you have like a low moment, is like, we go for a swim, we have an all-in, you know, an acai bowl, we go, shout out your great product.
Great product.
The best acai bowl, I'd like to argue.
We've tried all over the world.
Mexico, New York, Puerto Rico, we've tried all over the world, and all-in is the best acai bowl.
It is the best by far. And
Yes.
we're not sponsored, but it
Not
really
yet.
is.
But that's, you know, and like the ups as well. Like, I think what we've done a very good job is we've actually had a lot of micro celebrations and appreciations, whether it was a small milestone of surviving another month, to making our first 100,000, to, you know, going and creating these little wins for ourselves. And we went, had dinner together, we had drinks, we brought the team out. You know, we've had a lot of these appreciation moments. But I don't know if you agree or disagree, but like, let's say I just feel it myself, the last like 12 months, I haven't reflected or appreciated the journey, the growth, or anything, you know, and haven't been doing that actively. I don't know, have you?
No, absolutely not. Especially with getting something new off the ground. Like, I suppose I didn't really stop from like the day I finished up at Grafton to rolling straight into Magnate.
You went straight in.
Straight in, because I suppose, and I'm still getting to a stage where I need a product that can revenue generate. And like, I suppose, coming from a bootstrap background, which is obviously our background, we've never raised capital. I'm trying to get the product as far down the line as possible without having to take capital on as much as I can. And obviously I'm in the NDRC pre-accelerator, I'm in the New Frontiers Local Enterprise Office phase 1, so I'm doing kind of the government systems of getting into the sphere and obviously go down that path, but definitely haven't really reflected very much, because I suppose I've just been singularly focused on, I need to get this product shaped up, ready for market, start revenue generating, and then, you know, you can reflect.
Yeah.
And again, you know, whether for right or for wrong, and I do think we've done a very good job, and it's one thing one of our mentors had said to us over the years is to celebrate the small wins. Like, you know, and I think as part of the ups and downs, I remember it being described to me of like, you can have really high and low lows, and I think to save yourself in the long term is trying to level out that roller coaster. The highs are just a little less high, but the lows are a little less low, because otherwise you'll just get burnt out. Like, and we've seen it.
They're like a candle. If you're burning both sides, yeah.
So like, if you just try and curve it just slightly on both sides, because you can get really excited about an opportunity and then it get taken away from you. And
I can't even get excited about anything anymore unless it's like signed, sealed, delivered, or like it's like committed, or it's like over and done with. And you're nearly, once that's like, you're at the stage of commitment, it's nearly like, I need to actually fulfill it and deliver it until I can get a little bit excited. But constantly you just get hit with new and different and different,
always,
and the good and the bad, and it's just like you gotta cope with that all the time.
So yeah, I definitely think, and it's interesting because I suppose our bubble who we talk to entrepreneurship wise are typically guys decades more experienced than us, and now being
a lot of grey hairs, but they're great. They keep us on the right track,
and we've been very, very fortunate to befriend and know a lot of people well ahead of us in business, and you know, to be able to be guided by some of the best people in Ireland and then internationally as well. But it's interesting where now, let's say, with New Frontiers. I'm talking to people that have never gone into business before, and we're in breakout rooms and even asking questions about the pros and cons of entrepreneurship and just some of the misconceptions around. Like there's one guy that thought, I can just I don't want employees, I want to subcontract everything. Why don't I just like subcontract everything?
So just like white label it, or
just white label the entire thing. He's like, I don't get to say understand why, or people being like, oh well, you're your own boss, you pick your own hours and all these different things, and it's just interesting. And again, that's just lack of just not being in the space. But it made me step back a second and go, oh wow, like I've been in such a bubble for so many years. I don't usually talk to people that aren't in business about business. So
and that's just such a, like, you're talking 6 years in the difference.
Yeah.
I think the jiu-jitsu analogy is really good of the belt system.
Yeah.
As you could be talking to a blue belt, a black belt, etc. And there's that mutual respect across each and
Always.
everybody that comes into the is it called a dojo?
Yeah, dojo,
or
gym or whatever,
the gym. Like there's that mutual respect to the ranks, and
Always.
it's the same in business. You just know when you're talking to a black belt or you're talking to someone with no belt yet, looking to get their belt, you know, and prove themselves. And like a lot of people, like I was actually talking to a younger guy this last weekend, and who's aspiring entrepreneur, and I was just talking about, he was like, you know, one of his goals is to get in more with business people and just to get to learn more. And it was like, you know, where do I start? I said, go to like a networking event, you know, put on a badge, call yourself something, and just go, like, actually say hello. Say, hey, this is what I'm doing, love to learn more, you know, and just say it, because like most right business people will appreciate it and will give a hand up, you know, and just give them a chance to get into the whole circuit of it. So I think it's I think that's just, I suppose,
and I remember and we'll move on to the next point afterwards because I want to keep the kind of the episode around 45 minutes, but I remember our first ever business event we went to was in Dublin Castle. It was Jamie White's event.
Jamie, yes.
And it was my 18th birthday. It was a Saturday. It was the Friday after my maths paper 1 and Irish paper 1, and I had my paper 2s been both on Monday. For anyone internationally listening, that's like your end of year high school exams when you just turn 18. I was in the middle of those exams. It was a Saturday. It was my 18th birthday.
We suited up.
Well, it was jeans and a blazer. I didn't even own a suit at that point, I don't think.
Yeah, probably. I think I had like a grey suit or something. I remember that photo.
But I remember us going up and just putting some badges on. I remember seeing my name and Grafton Digital on a badge for an event and being like, this is so crazy. And like just
Mom, I met it.
Yeah, just the naivety and just rolling into conversations with no clue, barely no clients, absolutely no idea what we're doing. But I still, that picture still comes up of us just taking pictures there, and we took pictures of different entrepreneurs, or I don't know. But again, I think the naivety, and it's something, it was the Whoop founder Will Ahmed was saying. He founded Whoop when he was 22, and he was saying that the major thing young people have is a naivety of they've no idea how difficult it'll be and what the world has out there for them, and you're just willing to jump in. And I thought it was a really good one because he's 10 plus years down the line from founding Whoop. I think we were the same. We got in at 17, 18, no clue, and just jumped in.
Yeah, and we have to give it to Jamie White. Like, I think a lot of people don't realize, but Leading Social and Jamie White were kind of like the founding. Jamie White was like the founding godfather of the agency, like doing proper social media for companies and everything. So like I remember talking to him, you know, and like he gave us a good bit of gold, little bits of gold nuggets, you know, just to get started. So and
it's interesting now, like I know we sometimes joke about him being the ultimate talent acquirer nationally.
He spotted all the talent back in the day.
All the talent. You got Paddy Galloway, who's now one of the YouTube with leading consultants. I know Leighton.
Was Paddy spotted?
He was.
Oh wow.
Paddy worked for Jamie. A lot of you probably know online. Worked for, or I got it offered a job.
Yeah.
I don't know if we're allowed to say, I don't know if he ever names him. We might have to bleep that name. But anyways, a well-known online influencer. Online, you definitely know, Irish guy was offered a job. I think he turned it down. Leighton Penrose now.
He's an ads genius.
Very good at what he does. I got offered a job as well.
He was very good at talent spotting and nurturing and building and coaching.
Very good. And again, the list can go on and on of the guys that he actually had spotted. But again, ups and downs of business. I think it's definitely trying to level out the ups and downs. I think has been a big one for me. And then like any sort of small wins, it's difficult. I still not mastered that, but definitely trying to mark the small wins because it's a long journey otherwise, because there's no end.
Yeah. There is no end, and that's what we were actually talking about yesterday. There's never like a perfect ending or anything. Like when you're like a builder or creator, you just keep going until you have that spark, and the minute that spark's gone, you're kind of like, well, you got to repurpose it.
Yeah.
But as mentioned, just going back to the whole kind of hiring and, you know, having the right team and firing and talking about all that as well. Like, I think the whole like hiring, firing piece is not really talked about too much. And I think actually the last, call it not just a week, but the last month, I really like delved into what it's like to build and I suppose rebuild a team and to kind of really go into that responsibility. And my big key learning over the last month was really is like, okay, you can hire a senior marketing person, the most experienced person on the planet, and they could have worked with some top companies and everything. But if you're not ready for that person to come into your organization, you cannot expect the impact that you might quantify in salary. Yeah. So you could pay a guy top dollar and like, well, I don't even have my socials in order and everything. These guys are used to, you know, having huge marketing budgets and spending it and implementing
data
it,
and, you know,
teams and everything, and I'm not there on their level. It's actually my fault. So why am I hiring them? I'm wasting their time. So I think Patrick, Bet David actually talks about that. He was trying to hire this marketing director, and they've asked for like a multi-million-dollar budget, and Patrick goes, I can't afford that, so I can't actually afford to work with you or employ you at the moment. But
and he said, I will try and come back in 5 to 10 years time, and I hopefully will be at a stage where like
I could actually afford
to work with you.
A couple $1 million. So like that only really starting to hit in for me over the last like month of just working with different professionals and looking at different departments of the business and actually calling them departments, because for ages when you start a business there's no departments, everyone wears different hats every day.
All hands on deck.
And then like it actually makes sense to kind of diversify and conquer in different directions and kind of go into that. But I found that actually during hiring, yes, you could be the best person across the table, and could, you know, the airport test. Who taught us that airport test?
Shane Curran.
Shane Curran.
Yeah, Evervault.
Yes, Evervault. The whole airport test is, can I sit with this person for a good few hours if I was stuck because my plane was delayed or cancelled in the middle of nowhere? That's a really good metric for me. But I now just tend to also think about asking the other person of what they want to achieve in their role and what they need to achieve that, and do I have that resource and that momentum or that contact book or that level of training I can provide to that person, because success is actually like a two-sided effort of the business. It's not, I was just like, I hired someone and I was like thinking, because they got the experience in the years and they put it into there, and if I'm not giving them the success recipe, it's going to be a bit of waste of both sides' time, right? So that's a big one. And one thing I've just like learned about firing, again, let's say the last 6 months, is you got to have a very honest, transparent and fast conversation, because the longer it goes on, the less transparent you are, because it's a conversation I think a lot of people do avoid. It's a tough conversation, but sometimes ripping off the plaster can be very beneficial for that wound to heal, and everybody can go on their own way, and actually like they're not wasting their time in a role that they're actually not going to evolve in or have a real future in, and because like you've got kind of already closed them off mentally on going on. So again, it's kind of a two-sided effort, and hiring and firing I think is a very difficult thing. And Garrett actually said it to us a couple of years ago that hiring is guessing and firing is knowing. But I have learned now it's actually such a two-sided effort, and I've got to got to define and have clearer expectations from a person in a lot of senses for success to be, I suppose, realized.
Yeah, like I suppose one thing I don't think we did for years is because we didn't know how to do it. We never had any jobs we worked previously. My first job.
Sorry, you didn't even do you even have a CV there?
No, I don't.
I still have my old CV.
My first proper job was grafting. I've had a couple part-time jobs since, just for like literally 3 months equivalent over 6 years.
Because you were bored.
Well, one was helping a family member, helping dad out for a month, and then one was the very start of COVID because lost all revenue. So I did 2 months part-time work to help personally fund me. But hiring is guessing and firing is knowing. Great one. The other one we've really found, I was talking about success, of like giving someone KPIs and giving them a roadmap to progression in an organization two huge ones we didn't do for years.
No.
Because we didn't know how to do it. We didn't know where the company was going. We didn't.
Yes.
And like we had no clue, so we couldn't give them
We
a
didn't know how
roadmap.
to measure the success. Like that word KPI, like we were looking at, remember that we created some Excel around everything and you're just looking at it. It's just like you
Whiteboard.
you can't look at it black and white like that. It's actually got to be more like macro, micro type, sprints and short term, long term. But yeah, we didn't know how to define.
And I think, like, for someone to feel satisfaction in their job, I think they need to have, I think talking about this with someone today, is a long-term vision of, like, where are they generally going in the organization? What skills are they gaining? What are they learning along the way? And then what does month-on-month success look like for them, and how are they hitting that? And if they're not hitting that, how are you able to coach them and guide them to get there? Or if they're excelling it, okay, maybe they need to take on more responsibility. Maybe they need to grow, So I think there are two big ones that we missed out on early days, and I definitely think we wish we'd figured it out earlier, because I suppose it was very difficult for us to measure success and give someone a route to progression in the organization, even though we're able to retain really top level talent, because we're able to deliver jobs that really personally satisfy them and they'll enjoy working on certain types of work.
Right.
The other one as well, and it's going to sound very lofty, but I feel like anytime we've had a gut feeling about someone at the very start, when
it kind of comes true.
Nearly always, someone never, if they do something out of line or something they didn't like, it only gets worse as they get more comfortable. It only exasperates.
For you, it was punctuality, spelling was two big things. If they were late for the meeting or they made spelling mistakes, I remember your tinkle went off and you were like, oh, this is going to be repetitive. Yeah. And it actually has become repetitive in certain... Yeah,
or even just like lack of gratitude
for
a role.
Things,
and like unrealistic expectations of like we had someone that wanted to double their salary within 3 months of just coming on board with us, which is unrealistic. But I suppose that's a learning from us. The other one as well, which I still think that I'm getting better at, and I think you're seeing more and more. This is you're hiring more people. Is actually knowing what an A-class player looks like, or knowing what because I suppose when you hire someone, you go, right, this is my benchmark. And then, like, maybe that person is like a B player. Then you hire someone, you go, this is an A plus. This is an A player. Oh, and this is an A plus.
When you feel it, it's like driving a supercar, because you're like, it's so different.
Yeah.
The transition is smoother. It's just a different experience, and you realize it much faster that you've hired well. But it's also, you can lift people up in different roles. So you could hire, like, depending on your budget and everything like that, is you could hire a B or C person and bring them up to the next level. But then it's going to be more time for you, probably. That's where your resource is going to come from, because you're not putting up the cash.
The one I love, and it's one of the top organizations on the planet, the Navy SEALs, and it's the top Navy SEALs team. They look at two different rankings when they're bringing people in. These are the most elite special forces people on the planet. They look at competency and they look at trust, right? So obviously, one's 1 out of 10 and one's 1 out of 10. They will take someone who's a 6 or a 7 on how good they are as a military operator if they're like a 9 out of 10 trust, that they're always a team player.
So the trust is the defining.
Absolutely, because if someone's 10 out of 10 but they're super selfish, then when push comes to shove, they could put everyone else's life in danger. So I suppose, like, when we're talking about B-class players, A-class players, just because someone's talented shouldn't mean that they get a pass just to not play well with everyone else and be a good team player. But I suppose with Magnate now, and like that, we have a great team. But I suppose what I'm saying, with every team member we bring on, I want to just up the level just slightly. Everyone is the benchmark. Let's up it, because everyone, like a rising tide lifts all boats. And I suppose, like you're talking about, of like, let's keep increasing the talent, let's keep increasing the experience, and let's keep pushing each other, because everyone can rise together. But I thought that was really interesting about the Navy SEALs, and it's one that really stuck with me. That someone, if they're 10 out of 10 loyalty, but they're 6 or 7, let's say, on like pure experience or like background perfect or whatever.
It's the loyalty, the defining one.
And they'll stick with you. Yeah. And they will be your top performers over time.
Yeah, no, that's interesting. We have a few more minutes. Quick question, because I get asked this all the time, especially from people looking to get either their first job, or they're changing jobs, or just getting into the career, or whatever moment of just getting there. And like, they always ask me, what's one tip you'd give on hiring? So what do you look for in when somebody's sitting in front of you, whether in Zoom or in person or wherever, and they're there and they want to work for Magnate now? What's one thing you really look for? What's one advice you tell them, whether it be putting things on their CV, whether it be just the image they do, whether it have a LinkedIn. What's one thing you really look for when you're hiring someone?
Yeah, I think that's two things. I think one is I'm a big person for experience. I think that, let's say even you're hiring a graduate out of college, I'd much faster, I think a lot of people recruiting would do this, is okay, I'll take you have your college degree, great, you have that. What were you doing outside of it? Like what were you focused on? What were you learning and growing about? Because I feel like, especially with college, and it can be very demanding, I really think it shows the character and kind of like work ethic of a person, that like, okay, what were you working on? What were you interested in? Or let's say someone was like years in industry of like, did you start a side hustle? Like, we doing some consulting as a nixer on the side? Like, what were you doing? I really love to kind of like weed into the person of like, how did you do that? And what are you interested in? Because I suppose with a startup especially, I believe it needs to be all hands on deck. You can't be you have to be a bit of a go-getter. You have to be a bit of a self-starter. And I think you need to be that sort of person. So I really try and delve into that, problem solving, self-starter, that belief to throw yourself into a random scenario
and try to make it work.
And just try and make it work. So that'd be a big one for me anyway, especially as a startup. And then secondly, they really need to believe in where we're going. Like, they really need to be bought in. Like, everyone that's on the team currently is bought in. And like, no more than, let's say, if I was pitching an investor or potential client, I pitch them where this is going, and I need them to be bought in, because a startup in particular is not like a big corporate company. You don't have that.
You don't have the resources. You're not Facebook with tens of millions in the bank.
And we actually do have a couple of beanbags, but we don't have the free lunches. You can't just clock out at 5 a lot of the time. Again, sometimes, but it really is a bit all engulfing, and it really is, you are banding together and going on this crazy journey. And thankfully, a couple of people on our team currently have been involved in startups, so they know what's involved with that, which is very different. So I suppose I need someone really bought in, really want to go the distance, and is really enthusiastic about it. And like I said, even if they don't have the most amount of experience, if they're bought in the journey, they're all in, and they have the open-mindedness, the willingness to learn. I'm so willing to collaborate.
100%.
Yeah.
One thing I've seen is a lot of people become afraid of applying for a job because they're looking at Indeed, and suddenly there's one or two criteria that they don't actually fit, and it could be as simple as have some sort of a qualification in terms of an Adobe design or something simple that actually is not that critical. But I actually think that most employers do not mind if you do not fully fit that box, but you got to prove to them that this is how you are going to make it up, or this is your vision, or like, I'm really about added value. Yeah. So if somebody comes to me, if they come to me with a single Word document with their picture on the left hand corner, this is who I am, this is what I do, and this is what I want to do for you, and this is how much I need to earn. That's what I look for, because I'm looking at, is that person presentable, investable? Yeah. Have they got the track record, or have they got the whole, I suppose, confidence on, I want to give this a go, and I'm gonna constantly keep coming back to him. Like, I remember one of our first greatest hires. I remember when she applied, we actually were just going through like a whole sorting process, and the reason she skipped the queue because she kept calling the landline. Yeah. And she kept leaving a voicemail. And I remember picking up the phone, like a little bit irritated, because I was like, it's a hiring process. Like, I got to look through all the CVs, assess everybody. And she won me over the phone. She sold me over the phone because she was like, she wouldn't let me hang up until she got an interview date. Yeah. And it was pretty much like, if I was about to hang up or something, would have been like, are you seriously hiring, or like, what's like a time wasting? And then she came in, and I think we hired her really, really fast, and she was like a key defining player. Absolutely. From there. You know who I'm talking about. And
she's still here today.
She's still amazing. Here today, and she's an absolute star. And but I remember just that consistency, and just like the CV was like okay, there was a lot of experience there, but it's a person like picking up the phone, telling me, here, I want to work for you. This is my background, and like, this is what I want to do. And I remember I was like, how dare you skip the queue? Like, you know what? I really respect that, because I skipped the queue. I hate queuing. Yeah. So I love that. And like, you got to do those small things for an employer, because like, imagine when you put up an Indeed ad, this all, we get hundreds of applications. So you're expected to get back to everybody in a fair play manner and everything like that. But when you're a startup, or you're growing your business, you're looking for somebody that can make quick and instant and strong impact.
She also applied through Facebook Jobs.
Yes.
It wasn't even an Indeed.
Yes.
We got like 2 applications through Facebook.
And she was one of them.
It was, No, but she's an amazing player for Grafton and still to today.
Yes.
And like you said, a very pivotal player a few years ago for us in the new era that is now.
And today she keeps those qualities that you know you mentioned as well, the consistency from day one.
Yeah.
So I mean, I think that's a good wrap of it.
Totally. No. Is there anything else you want to close off with, or I think is that enough for episode 2?
No, yeah, I'm glad we've got our episode 2 out of the way, because it's all about consistency here at Build From Scratch, because you got to do that. So I look forward to seeing you next week and seeing what we've got to discuss.
Yeah. Hopefully there's some tidbits in there. Again, like I said, like Eric and I have been in business for 6 years. We're not trying to be preachy here. We're just trying to talk about from our experience and talk authentically.
Be as transparent as possible.
Yeah, I hope that comes across in this episode, because we really are pushing ourselves to be as authentic and be as open as possible. Which again, does feel a little risky. It definitely does.
It always does, but I think we've done our building block now that we can go out and share some learnings, because we have those battle scars. If you get me, what I hate is a lot of people when they start, it's like they haven't actually done anything in the background. And I think that's what we were always afraid of, is want a substance. Like if someone listens to it, it's to take something from what we're talking about.
Totally.
And to see okay, I'm actually going to take this on, etc. So it's all about that. It's all like entrepreneurship is all about taking all your learnings and implementing them. But you got to be able to pick the learnings you want to implement, because you'll hear 10 different ways on how to structure your work week. One will suit you, and the rest won't. And I think what a lot of people do is read all these books and go through all these courses and do everything like this, and they're actually so overwhelmed because they got so many options, they don't know which one to take. And your job is to always pick the best option from your gut and keep going on it.
Totally. And my advice always is, someone's like, what do I do if I want to start a business? Just start.
Just get going.
Because there's so much content there in marketing and sales. And
Hormozy, I think, has the best launchpad, quick content and instructions to start any business, probably any business in the world.
Yeah, he is the best in the business content
From
space.
Making an offer to getting your team to market it, to brand it, to grow it, everything. And I think it's very bite-sized content.
Yeah.
So any person that just wants to listen to it, I think Hormozy is great.
Amazing.
In that space.
Right. Thank you very much, Eric. It's been a good fun chat as always.
Make sure everyone subscribe and follow on Spotify and all that kind of good stuff, because we've got weekly episodes coming. Yeah. So thanks for your time, Darren. We'll see you next week.
Absolutely. See you next week. Bye.